Xbox on.
Welcome to Onourshelf. Today what I have is a full review of the Xbox One Launch Edition. So just in case you missed my unboxing video earlier, here it is again in about 20 seconds. And basically what you get in the box is the new Kinect sensor. You also get a headset with mic controls that plugs into the controller. You get a few manuals. You get a controller that comes with 2 AA batteries. You also get an HDMI cable. And you get a power brick. And then the last thing is the Xbox console itself. So here it is, the Xbox One itself with its controversial design. So what's inside of it? Well, as far as hardware goes, it features 8 gigs of RAM, a 500 gigabyte hard drive, an 8-core custom CPU, and an AMD Radeon GPU. So let's take a look at the front of the Xbox One. We have our Blu-ray drive to the left, we have our eject button right here, and we have our power on-off button right here. It's touch sensitive. On the right we have a bunch of vents, and we also have a USB 3.0 port. On the left side we have vents as well. Also on the top we have vents, so this thing should keep cool and not overheat. Should. On the back of the Xbox we have a few more vents as well. As far as ports go, we got our power input, our HDMI out, our digital optical out, our HDMI in, 2 USB 3.0 ports, our Kinect port, our IR out, and our Ethernet port. Now right here we have the Kinect sensor. Here's the actual camera itself. Over to the left we have an Xbox logo which lights up to let you know that the Kinect is on and working. Up top we have vents to keep this thing cool. On the bottom we have our microphone, or I should say microphones. And we also have a fan in back. On the right side we have a vent, and we also have a vent on the left side as well. Here's a demonstration of the adjustable stand. And on the bottom we have a tripod mount along with some rubbery grippy material. And here's how it looks on a tripod. Now to set the Xbox One up is fairly simple. First thing you want to do is plug in an HDMI cable. Then you want to go ahead and plug the power cable in. And why not hook up the Kinect sensor as well while you're back there. Connect the power brick to the power cord. Plug the other end of the HDMI cable into the TV. Then plug the Xbox into the wall. Open up the back of the Xbox One controller, put the 2 included AA batteries inside so that you're ready to go. Touch the Xbox logo on the console to turn it on. And then once you press the power button for the first time, the Xbox finally comes to life and it gives you that big green screen. And then from there comes the fun part where you have to actually set up the Xbox itself. That takes approximately 10 minutes, I should say. Be careful with this part. You want to set it up right the first time around. And if you have an Xbox account already, it might be a little bit faster. But actually for your pretty much standard, it's pretty much your standard setup screen. It's going to ask you things like connect to Wi-Fi, set up time zone, set up an account, sign into your account, accept the terms and agreement, get an Xbox Live membership, set up the Kinect, and that's pretty much about it. After that, you're pretty much all set, ready to go, and it's going to take you to this first time intro screen. And it's a cool little intro. It shows you some of the design of the games and the graphics and stuff like that. But before we go any farther, let's talk about the design of the hardware. So here it is, the Xbox One itself with its very straightforward design. Now a lot of people are out there saying that it looks like a VCR. Me, I think it looks kind of like an old school or first generation DVD player. But who cares really? For the most part, this thing's gonna sit in one spot for the majority of its life. Now there are a few of us that like to travel around and take it over friends' houses, but most of us, it's gonna just sit in one spot and that's it. But I was hoping that with this new massive design, well, I shouldn't say massive, but I guess you can consider it massive compared to today's consoles, the PS4 and the Wii U, that the power brick will be on the inside instead of the outside this time. Because I mean, if you look at the size, this is one of the biggest Xboxes of all time, and the power brick is still on the outside. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If Sony can do it, Microsoft, why can't you? But on the bright side, with this new bigger design, this should cut back on a lot of the problems that some of the earlier Xbox 360s had as far as overheating goes. You shouldn't have that problem this time around. This thing is loaded with vents all over the place, so hopefully it cuts back on that. But here's a close look at a side-by-side comparison between the Xbox One and the Xbox Slim model. This isn't their current Slim model, but this is their most recent Slim model before their current Slim model, if that makes any sense. Now on to the controller. Now, what do? You already have the best gaming console controller out there. How do you make it better? Well, there's not really much you can do, but in this case, Microsoft figured out a way to make this controller even better. One of the things that they did was that they finally fixed the D-pad. It no longer has that big, bulky looking circle sticking out. Now it has a more simplistic design that works a whole lot better. Also, the battery pack. It no longer has that bulgy back piece sticking out right in between your fingers. So now it's just a completely flat design in the back, giving you more room for your fingers. And if you have bigger, fatter fingers, then you have more room to move around with as well, making the controller more comfortable to hold. Also, this new controller features impulse triggers, making the LT and RT buttons vibrate when you're playing games. Which, PlayStation team, please take note. If you're going to copy any feature from this controller right here, this Xbox One controller, please copy that impulse trigger feature. That is really cool. And I can't wait to see what the games in the future are going to feel like using that feature. And the last thing is this Xbox One controller now has a micro USB port on the top, so you can now make this wireless controller a wired controller. Okay, so let's talk about the Xbox One interface. Now it's pretty simple and straightforward. To the left we have pins, and what pins represents is your own little group of custom icons or apps you have in your own little personal space corner. That's over to the left. In the middle we have home. Home pretty much represents the most recent activities that you're actually doing. So for example, as you can see in the bottom left, it says Store, Xbox Store, Skype, Xbox Fitness. I was just recently using that apps, and the big one in the middle as well is the actual last thing that I was doing, which I was browsing YouTube videos. Now if we go over to the right, we have Store. That's pretty self-explanatory. You have games, movies, TVs, music, and apps. That's where you go to download new content and new media. And way over in the top left-hand corner, we have our notifications, and that basically gives you a list of, well, your most recent notifications, things that just happened, your newest achievements, and etc. And to the right of notifications, we have our menu where you can switch between users. And there's also a neat little app for the Xbox One called Xbox One Smart Glass. And it does a lot of things, but one of the main things that's pretty neat is it allows you to customize the main menu of your interface while using your tablet or a smartphone device. And you can also launch games and stuff like that as well. Now you're probably asking yourself, how does the Xbox Kinect device interact with the Xbox One? Well, first off, let me start by saying I always find these things to be a little bit gimmicky, and I end up never really using them. It's not that they are gimmicky, it's just that I just don't use them. But in this case, I found myself using it a lot more than I thought I would. And this particular device works really well. Here's some voice commands that I used on it earlier. Xbox, show my stuff. Xbox, go to Internet Explorer. Xbox, go to Netflix. Xbox, go to Friends. Xbox, go home. Xbox, go to Forza Motorsports 5. Xbox, record that. Xbox, snap. Now let's talk about the main subject, and that is playing games, because that's probably the main reason why you're buying this console. It might not be. With the Xbox One, there's a lot of other reasons why you can buy something like this. But for the most part, I think most people that are buying this are going to be gamers. Now, one difference that I'm noticing is speed in terms of launching the game and exiting out of the game. For example, if I have Netflix launch and I say Xbox, launch Forza Motorsports 5, it does that really, really quick in terms of getting to the main menu quick. Now, as far as in-game speed, I'm not noticing a big difference there in terms of switching between menus. But if I just choose to exit out of the game and go to another application or something like that, it does that pretty fast. Next up, graphics. Now, I'm specifically talking about NBA 2K12 and Forza Motorsports 5. Those are the two titles at first that I'm noticing a pretty big difference on when it comes to graphics. Now, keep in mind, overall, And the jump between the original Xbox One, and the Xbox 360, that was a pretty big jump in graphics. The difference between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One, the difference isn't drastic. It isn't as drastic as it was with the first two generations of this console. Now, Xbox fans, keep in mind I'm saying the exact same thing about the PlayStation. PS1, PS2, pretty drastic. PS2, PS3, pretty drastic. PS3, PS4, not as drastic. But nonetheless, graphics are good. They basically took really good graphics and made them better. You can't complain about that. But I truly believe, and I'm talking about both consoles here, that within the next few years, we're gonna start seeing games that are a lot more optimized specifically for these systems, and the graphics are gonna get a whole lot better. But graphics isn't everything. Let's talk about gameplay. And there's not much to say about gameplay. I mean, they're basically taking something that was really good already and they're making it better. The biggest difference I'm seeing is the ability to multitask and share with friends and do a lot of other things while playing the game without affecting the game and having to stop the game permanently. And I guess if you're into that sort of thing, social media and stuff like that, then that's a huge advantage for you. And wait a minute, I'm getting my butt whooped. Here, take that, take that, take that. There we go. That's how I get down. I'm afraid your path ends here. Now, Xbox has found a way to get you more immersed in the game with the new impulse triggers, and it works great with Forza 5. There aren't a lot of games that support it yet, but I'm really looking forward to that in the future. So to sum it all up about games, and there really aren't a lot to choose from right now, but the ones that we do have look very promising. And I truly believe that these launch titles are only a taste of what's to come within the next few years. So the conclusion. So after going through all the features of the Xbox One, and to be honest with you, I didn't go through everything in this video. I probably could have spent between 30 and 40 minutes showing you everything that the Xbox One does, because it truly does do a lot. And you really start to feel good about the $500 you paid for it once you realize what this machine is capable of. It's great. In fact, it's better than ever at gaming, but it's good at doing those other things as far as media and accessing apps and multitasking. Xbox has truly got something on their hands here. Why? Because this generation of people, we have like the shortest attention span of all times. We always have to be doing multiple things at once, and someone at Microsoft realized that and said, hey, let's create this thing right here. So after playing this thing for a full week, I have to say that I still believe that this is a gaming first machine. Because even though it does all those other things like multitasking, accessing your media, going through social media, and doing multiple things at once, the only thing that it's really, really good at is still playing games. And so far, that has not been overshadowed by any of the other features on this Xbox One. So that has been my review of the Xbox One. Take care. I'll see you guys in my next video, and thanks for watching. Xbox in video.